Marcel Reed is the hero as Texas A&M stays undefeated in SEC play.
Ohio State fans, we have a problem.
Vandy fought hard, fell short on the scoreboard, but in the process earned a ton of respect.
The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story. Why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
Marcel Reed is the hero as Texas A&M stays undefeated in SEC play.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies.
The Aggies are 7-1. The Aggies are undefeated in SEC play. The Aggies have put themselves in a prime position to make a real run this season that could end somewhere very special, and we are talking college football playoff. You know, you put yourself in a prime position to make an SEC championship game. You right now stand alone atop the list when it comes to SEC rankings. Georgia's below you. Texas is below you. Tennessee, LSU, Alabama, all below you. The Aggies are 5-0 in SEC play. This game against LSU, just pure grit from this team. You go down early, then you score to get back into it, then you go back down 10 points, and you just keep finding a way to win the game. We're going to talk more about quarterback. We're going to talk more about what the future looks like here. This has been one of the most interesting seasons in my time as a fan watching college football and as my time covering college football. This has been one of the weirder seasons when it comes to quarterback play because it seems like you have multiple guys who make sense and then this doesn't go well and then there's an issue with this and it's just been really weird. But Marcel Reed, Connor Wigman was not playing a great football game. And I agree with what Coach Elko said post-game about, hey, I mean, obviously he was saying Connor wasn't great, but there wasn't a lot there for him, and he felt like the move needed to be made to run the football, and Marcel Reed sure did that. He ran the ball 9 times for 62 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Aggies as a whole ran the football 49 times. And the funniest part about this is the whole time that Marcel Reed was in the game, he only threw the football twice. He completed both of his passes for 70 yards. So y'all understand my that listen every day here at Locked On Aggies. You all know my issues with Marcel Reed, and it was just I felt that the offense flowed a little bit better with Connor Wigman, knowing that you have your running backs that are great, that are going to help you in your run game, and then Connor Wigman is going to be an accurate passer. And Marcel Reed was a guy that his legs are so valuable, but I just thought he wasn't an accurate enough passer, and I thought he needed a little bit more time to develop. I mean, here's the deal. Every time Marcel Reed is given an opportunity, he shines. You even look back last year to Oklahoma State in the bowl game when he's launched into a game. You know what Marcel Reed is? Marcel Reed is a gamer. He is a gamer. I have so much respect for that young man to come in and play great against Florida, play great your whole time as the starter, those few weeks. And then Wigman comes back against Missouri and Wigman looks great and it looks like you lost your job again. And then you are launched into play against the number 8 team in college football. Your team's behind, you're in trouble. And you just come in and shine, man. I have so much respect for Marcel Reed. What Coach Elko does at quarterback, I don't know. It's still to be seen. I think that this is going to be a fun conversation this week. But I would rather be having this conversation about what are we going to do quarterback-wise. And everyone's going to hop on the Marcel Reed train there. And I'm not saying I'm not. I want to watch the game another time, and I want to look back at things, and I want to think about this realistically. And I will probably end up landing on, I think, knowing the way you run the football if Marcel Reed can just give you a little bit in the pass game, he makes sense as your guy. That's probably what I'll land on. But I want to run back through this, and we'll talk more about that on Monday. But I'd rather be having this conversation knowing the Aggies got to win than having this conversation knowing Texas A&M lost LSU. It's a lot more fun having this conversation knowing the Aggies just got this massive win over LSU.
If you're an NFL fan and you're looking for a big return, look no further than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Plus, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And you can put that $5 on Monday Night Football. The Steelers are solid favorites tonight against the Giants. I actually already have this one in my dance card with Russell Wilson's debut sending good vibes to the Steel City. FanDuel thinks Pittsburgh can keep it going. They're favored by 5.5. So what are you waiting for? That's FanDuel.com to get started.
Ohio State fans, we have a problem.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Because your Buckeyes are not playing good enough to beat elite college football teams. And y'all, that's a problem. And it's not just what we saw against Nebraska on Saturday. Think back to what you saw against Oregon, what you saw against Michigan State, what we saw in the first half against Iowa, what we saw against Marshall. Ohio State has a problem. And we went into the season, Denzel Burke said it during an offseason presser, that this is a natty or bust year. Even went a step further saying you got to win every game. And as a competitor, I'm glad that he went that far to say we got to win every game, because I think if you go into a season thinking, oh, we can have 1 or 2 losses and you're cool with that, I will question your level of your competitiveness that you have out there on the field. So I am not mad that Denzel Burke went out there and said that we got to win every game, because that's the mindset I want your leader to have. But when you say natty or bust, you're raising the bar. You're putting that thing extremely high. And then Ohio State every single year is saying, well, we got to beat Michigan. I'm glad you say it. We got to win the conference. I'm glad you say it. Oh, we got to win the natty. That's a level of intensity. That's a level of a standard that is putting your standard lofty, extremely high. And right now, what we saw against Nebraska is just making everybody a little confused and a lot of us concerned, because I'm concerned because Ohio State has time to fix some of their issues, but with some of the injuries on both sides of the ball, I don't know if they're going to be able to, which is a major problem, because you would expect coming off the bye week, a couple weeks to digest some things after your first loss of the season, and you would expect players to be amped up, to be hyped, to be excited, to get back on the field, to be hungry. As James Laurinaitis said in the school session, hey, we're angry, we're going to play fast. And I'm sitting here thinking, what I heard before the game from one of your coaches, from a college football legend, is not what we saw in the field for all 4 quarters. Yeah, we saw some fire from the defense at times, and yeah, we saw the defense play fast, and Ryan Day talked about how Cody Simon played possessed, and that's one thing that even Tim May, after the game in the post-game presser, asked Ryan Day if he realized that Cody Simon played possessed, because I think he did play like that. So I'm not mad about like that kind of stuff. We want to see that level of play. What we're getting from the offense at times, really the entire team, but for some reason the offense, specifically in this past game, let's just focus on Nebraska. I don't have time to go back to Oregon and Michigan State, because y'all, we will be here all day. But if we just go back to what happened against Nebraska, it's homecoming. Urban Meyer's in town. You're big noon. Everybody named Mama's watching Ohio State. Way more than normal. The last team to win a national championship in Columbus, Ohio, was there getting recognized. And what did we find? That Ohio State wasn't ready to go, had a slow start. They weren't amped up. They weren't excited. They weren't ready to get back on the field. That's a problem. That's a bigger problem than maybe the fact that they're not playing good enough to beat elite teams. Y'all ain't even ready to play the game. What are we talking about? We're talking about a team that over and over and over and over and over has a problem getting amped up to play. Ohio State has one loss right now, and the luxury about the 12-team playoff is there's a good chance they're still going to make it. There's still a good chance they're going to make the Big Ten championship game, and they got to take care of business and get some help from other teams. Wisconsin losing to Penn State this past Saturday, that helps Ohio State get that shot to make it into the Big Ten championship game. But they're pretty much a lock. If they're 10-2 at the end of the season, they're pretty much a lock to make the playoff. And I think that may have hurt the Buckeyes' level of intensity on Saturday. Because if I'm a young player, 18 to 22, and I know that even on our C day, we could beat Nebraska, you might meld in on a few plays. You might not be ready to go early. You might not actually kick it into high gear until midway through the second quarter. And you may realize, oh, we can't run the ball, but it's cool. We're Ohio State. We're going to win. And you may realize, I might not bring my A game today. And I think what we saw on Saturday, I'm not saying that was a mindset, but we saw a lot of players not bring their A game. If we go into any game and Ohio State is struggling to run the ball, but they nearly have twice as many runs as passes, that's a problem. Will Howard's efficiency was right there, 81% passer on Saturday, 13 to 16, 221 through the air, 3 touchdowns. If you give me that stat line before the game and say, if Will Howard does this, what do you think Ohio State's going to do against Nebraska? Oh, they're going to cruise to a win. 21, 28 points. Like, they're going to cruise to a win. They're going to cover that 25.5 point spread. It didn't happen. That didn't happen. Those were Will Howard's numbers. 13 to 16, 221, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, a 246.7 passer rating. And y'all, that's just stupid. That's just stupid good. I mean, they're just saying that man was getting this job done. But what wasn't getting the job done was, in totality, the fire that Ohio State needed to have, especially when your left tackle isn't there. You may have to go a little bit harder to compensate for his absence. Y'all didn't do that. And that's a problem. We're going to dive into the coaches later in the show and dive into one specific issue with the team later in the show. But my biggest thing is, it's Ohio State. Y'all said now to your bust. Y'all are saying, speaking of the players and the coaches, y'all are saying this is beat Michigan, win the conference, win the Natty. And what we're finding is y'all not playing like that is what y'all might be doing. Because what we saw on Saturday night was, Michigan beat Michigan State, which, I mean, both teams aren't that good. So you would kind of get a nod to the home team. That's what happened. But Michigan's doing some stuff with their defensive line, moving their tackles. Mason Graham, forget the other guy's name. The two big guys in the middle. They're dropping one guy in coverage at times. They are, I believe Mason Graham was bumped out to edge at times. Is that Michigan preparing for Ohio State? Because I believe he was the right end, which is over the left tackle. Now, even though it's going to be slower for the big boy to get to the quarterback, Ohio State's already down 1 left tackle. Excuse me, they're down 2 now. And so we don't know when Zen Michalski's going to come back. If he does come back by the game against Michigan, cool. But what we saw in his first start this year was he is a liability. In the play, excuse me, let's go a little bit further. The coaches didn't help him. The players can only do so much, but the coaches didn't help him. And that's a problem. Because let's just say Michigan was doing that to prepare for Ohio State. Michigan already put that on film. So Ryan Day can't say in the postgame presser, regardless of the win or loss of that game, oh, man, we didn't see that. We didn't know about that. We got to wait to see what was on film because they did some things we didn't expect. And if it's asked, well, this was a little bit different. Did you guys expect that? And he's like, I don't really know. It's already on film. Oh, yeah. A lot of the things we see in college football may not have been on film this year. They have been on film in previous years. And what do you have? So many resources to dig up, to look back at previous years, to figure out what certain coaches do during certain tendencies. And maybe they don't show it in this year. Maybe you got to go back 3 years to look things up. And why do I say that? Because this is college football. You got to make sure you dot every I, cross every T, and make sure everything is done properly to prepare you for the next game. Ohio State's not prepared for games. They're struggling to beat Nebraska. On their best day, they're 1 point shy of beating the number 1 team in the country, which makes me think, and I believe, they're not playing good enough to beat the best teams in the country.
If you're an NFL fan and you're looking for a big return, look no further than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Plus, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And you can put that $5 on Monday Night Football. The Steelers are solid favorites tonight against the Giants. I actually already have this one in my dance card with Russell Wilson's debut sending good vibes to the Steel City. FanDuel thinks Pittsburgh can keep it going. They're favored by 5.5. So what are you waiting for? That's FanDuel.com to get started.
Vandy fought hard, fell short on the scoreboard, but in the process earned a ton of respect.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores.
Well, Vandy went toe-to-toe with the Longhorns. They came close to pulling the upset, but in the process, they got everybody's attention, man. But Texas overwhelmed with speed. Vandy adjusted great in the second half, but it wasn't enough. And Diego Pavia is a warrior as they tried to mount a comeback. But, man, this team showed you everything that they needed to show. I mean, they hung in there with Texas. They took Texas's best shot. I mean, Texas is a super talented team. We knew that coming in. The hope was that, Vandy's offense was going to confuse them a little bit. They were still a little funky about the quarterback situation, which was actually true. Georgia kind of did that to them, but I mean, we all know what Georgia brings to the table, but that was something that, Vandy was leaning on, and Vandy was still going to have to play a near perfect game to be able to pull this upset. And they just came in and Texas just overwhelmed you. And that's what they do well. So I got to tip my cap to Texas. They played a great game. They had a great game plan. They played to their identity, and they showed that they can come in the road in a tough situation, because Texas was in a tough situation here. They're just coming off a massive loss. They've got what everyone believes to be some quarterback issues, whether they actually had them or not. There was the belief that there are, which any bit of doubt that creeps into your head can get in there and spiral out of control and really make the vibes around your program weird and really kind of just shake things up a little bit. But and the game looked like it was getting off to that kind of start. Vandy on the first possession gets an interception, goes up 7-0, and we're like, okay, here we go. Like, what now? Quinn Ewers throws a pick on a tip pass. He doesn't look comfortable. And Vandy goes down there and scores, and you're thinking, okay, this is something, let's buckle up. Let's see what's going to happen. And then Texas just started clicking after that. And Quinn Ewers had 3 touchdown passes, I think 200 yards in the first half after that interception. And they looked fantastic. Defense struggled keeping up with Texas. It felt like receivers were wide open everywhere. It felt like running backs had plenty of room to run. They were gashing Vandy on big plays, big chunk plays, 20 yards at a time, moving the ball down. Some near perfect throws. There was I think their first touchdown was well defended by Russell, but the Texas receiver just went up and got it, and Ewers put the ball in a place where only his guy could get it and come down with it, and they made that happen. There was the second one was a great play call where they sent 2 guys in and wheeled the third guy, and I think it might have been the running back. I can't remember exactly who it was, but they wheeled a third guy up the sideline, and he was just wide open. So it was a great play call. Took advantage of what Vandy's defense was trying to do. They were on their heels a little bit, and then they were just reeling. And then Pavia, he throws 2 interceptions. Cedric Alexander fumbles one right there before half. So you give the ball away 3 times, and the momentum just kind of stayed with Texas that whole time. The second half defense played phenomenal. I think they made some really good adjustments, but just in the end they overwhelmed. But Pavia, I want to talk about him for a second, because he goes in the injury tent and you're thinking, okay, here we go. And now it's going to be the Nate Johnson show from here on out. Let's see what the kid can do, which I think in his, few reps, he did okay. But, Pavia came out the next series, was an absolute warrior, man. I mean, he didn't have the same burst and the same speed that he normally has, but I mean, he was making the same off-platform throws. He was I mean, he was dialed in, especially in the second half. I mean, he really fought back and he really earned a lot of respect. So, but the story of the game, of course, is speed, though. That's where Texas lies. It's speed, 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 and the team that was going to win. If we go back to the keys to the game, the team that was going to win, it was the team that was going to control the tempo, and I think Texas dictated that a lot. I think Texas prevented Vandy from getting the chunk yardage that they could. They held them, I think, to 3 and 13 on third downs, and they held the ball. And Texas actually held the ball longer than Vandy. They forced a couple turnovers. They got Vandy in a couple 3 and outs, and they just really kind of knocked Vandy back off their heels a little bit. And Vandy was trying to figure out what to do. It just seemed like there's one picture, and I need to find it again, but there's one picture that I saw out there where there's a Vandy ball carrier and 3 mammoth defensive linemen surrounding him, and it looked like he was in a forest of redwoods, and that told the story of the game. I mean, Texas they're just far and away better than what Vandy is. And that's not a knock on Vandy. Texas showed why people were thinking they were the number 1 team in the country. Georgia showed why they think they should be number 1 in the country. I think that was a good game between 2 good teams in Austin 2 weeks ago, or the week before last. And then this past game was Texas coming in and saying, okay, well, we're not going to let Georgia beat us twice. We're going to come in, and they took Vandy's best shot, and they held on, which is admirable. But anytime, and I know Texas fans are probably walking away from this going, we should have blown them out. It was a 3 touchdown. It was a 3 touchdown spread. So we should have won by that much. Like we were cruising, and then they're going to say they fell asleep at the wheel, which is not true. I think Vandy was able to get pressure on Ewers. Capers had a really nice game. Langston Patterson threw his hand up, tipped one up for an interception there in the second half. I think Texas was I think that was the drive. Texas was going to start opening things up a little bit and creating even more separation on the scoreboard. And Langston Patterson was able to stick his paw up there. But the story is that when plays needed to be made, Diego Pavia made them. And I think that was something that you can look at and say, okay, well, this Vandy team is for real. And that's why they earned the respect in the process. And Clark Lee and this team doesn't want moral victories. We know that. They know that. And that's good to hear. Like they're not feeling good about this because they, in their mind, thought they should have and could have won. Or could have and should have won because they thought they played well enough to beat Texas. And they did, just not over the course of 4 quarters. And they didn't put together enough to really go out there and seize that momentum that they needed. It was probably one of those things where it's too little too late. And so I'm very proud of this group, though. I'm very, very proud of how they played, how they fought, how they hung in there, how they took the onslaught of that's what Texas does. They overwhelm you. They blitzkrieg you. That's just kind of what they do. They just like an avalanche, right? They overwhelm you with speed, and they overwhelm you with speed on both sides. I mean, those defensive linemen, boom, those running lanes closed just like that. The pass rush was all over Pavia. He couldn't get comfortable. He's not really much of a pocket passer anyway. He's not comfortable in the pocket anyway, but the speed, man, speed kills. That's an old saying. That's an idiom, I guess. Well, not an idiom, but that's an old saying. Speed kills, right? And Texas does that. And Texas is very good at that, offensively and defensively, and in special teams. Like they had some good returns in special teams as well. That kind of prevented Vandy from creating long fields. So, I was impressed with Texas and how they kind of bounced back. I was impressed with Texas and how they handled the environment, because everything was against them. I admire Texas for the way they played, the speed in which they played with. I think Ewers really showed that, hey, this is not actually a quarterback controversy. I thought he did a good job of squashing that whole notion, because that was one of the big stories coming into the game. That was one of the things that people were talking about. I don't know if it was a big story in the media, but a lot of people were talking about it in conversations that I had. Was like, hey, what's going on with the quarterback situation at Texas? Like, if they're trying to shoehorn Arch Manning in there. They're trying to get him. to play quarterback at the University of Texas. They want him. It's almost like they wanted Ewers to fail. It's almost like they wanted to find a reason, any reason, a slight reason to put him in. And that's where everybody was kind of like, uh-oh, he threw a pick in the first series. What's going to happen? And what happened was he responded with 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half, and responded even better towards the end of the game. I think it's just one of those things where you just have to say, hey, you have to tip your cap to Texas and say, no, they're ranked top 5 for a reason. They were considered the best team in the country at one point for a reason, and that's why. They overwhelm you with speed. But, man, Diego Pavia is a warrior. He is an absolute warrior. He, again, just proved, like, that's leadership right there. I mean, honestly, that's leadership. You go into the tent, you come back out, and you're like, nah, screw this injury. I'm playing. Let's roll, okay? That's a leader. That is leadership in a nutshell. So Diego Pavia, phenomenal job on that, and just absolutely leading and showing people, hey, this is what we need to do. This is the kind of commitment we need to this team. This is kind of the commitment we need to this effort. If we're going to win, if we're going to go to a bowl game, if we're going to have the season that we want and beyond, we have to establish this culture. Fight, 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 fight. You're not always going to win on the scoreboard, but you continue to fight and you will start winning games that you shouldn't more frequently. And so that's another one that I think is good.